Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the ACSOM Bulletin. It's Tuesday afternoon, the terrific trio's back. Myself, Dave McConville, Lawrence Conley and Patrick McGill. Gentlemen, how are we on this sunny Tuesday?
We're doing well. How are you on your birthday, mate?
I'm fine. 22 years young today, or as I try to dress it up on Friday night, as you two know, 21 plus 1, since it was a disaster last year and I was stuck in the house. So we had a good laugh, good crack on Friday. And we're here to talk about the Celtic. Last Wednesday's result certainly improved the birthday celebrations, and I think that's the only place to start. We had on the day before it talked about tight games, being overrun in midfield and stuff. But Patrick, I'll come to you in this one. What a performance in that first half, and second half saw it out, and a terrific 3 points, and absolutely scintillating football in the first half, and the atmosphere was incredible.
Aye, well, happy birthday, first of all.
Thank you very much.
Celtic have made it a better one than last year. But aye, totally overran them in that first half. I mean, probably the best 45 minutes I've ever experienced as a football fan. Best atmosphere, best performance. It's certainly up there anyway. I think it was the best. For those lucky enough to have been at the game, they'll probably know what I mean. It was absolutely unbelievable. Second half, we're just talking before the show about Alan Morrison. He said the second half will be equally demoralising for the team that we were playing, because we totally sat off them and they still couldn't get a goal. We'd totally given up in attacking in the second half. Just sat back and defended, and they couldn't fashion a half-decent chance. So, delighted with both the first half and the second half, because first half, all-out attack, second half, total defensive unit, and we've done both jobs really, really well.
Lawrence, there's players that we can touch on that kind of characterised both halves, but I think the first place for me to start is the fullbacks, and what's one word? Wow. Josip Juranovic, we were giving it big time at my party with the old Fireball Pitbull, Josip Juranovic, but he thoroughly deserves it. What a performance he put in. He made Ryan Kent look as if he'd been playing amateur football for years. He just had him in his back pocket.
Yeah, totally. What a steal he's been. And on the other side, Taylor up against a 40 million man that needs to get hooked at half time because he was anonymous. I mean, Taylor's stats were brilliant for the game. Both fullbacks outstanding. But I think Giacomatti's best 60 minutes in a Celtic shirt. He's running about, pressing a lot more. I thought really impressed with him in the last two games, but yeah, against Rangers, I thought he put in a really solid performance. Hatate, 2 goals and an assist. O'Reilly, and his team really coming together as a whole unit, aren't they? Defending Absolutely. From the front, attacking from the back as well. It's just outstanding stuff. For me, the best attacking display I've seen since Tommy Burnstein.
Bold statement to make, but the football under Postecoglou, even surpassing at times Rogers' football that I watched, which I think for me and you, Patrick, is probably some of the best football we've seen Celtic play. In terms of Greg Taylor, the man that Lawrence touched on there, he has been a bit of a whipping boy for a lot of Celtic fans, but you can tell that Ange likes him. He seems to fit the system. He does that inverted fullback role very well. Thanks to Alan, as always, for these stats, which we like to give a good wee a bung to. His defensive performance, Patrick, 12 challenges, interceptions and lost 0. Last season's his averages were 5.1 and 5.4. He won 3 more challenges than the next, Starfelt, and won back possession 10 times 4 more than the next. Greg Taylor, talk about his performance last Wednesday, Patrick.
I think you've summed it up in the numbers. I mean, absolute. Well, I don't think you never have perfection, but near perfection. Ryan Kent never had a look in. I think he had 2 shots in goal, Kent, and they were both from outside the box, straight into Joe Hart's arms. It just goes to show the game that Greg Taylor had. Diallo as well. This is a guy that cost Man United 37 million. You would think he was playing for FC United of Manchester. I thought that was his level on Wednesday night, because I think he maybe got on the ball twice of note.
He's played too many pace games, by the way.
No, they're a real team. They're in about the 9th team of English football.
I know.
No, but they're 2 wingers. I think they probably switched sides a few times, but neither of them looked threatening at all. Certainly in the first half when we were on our game. And Greg Taylor and Jovanovic have to take immense credit for that. I know Greg Taylor isn't everyone's biggest. He's not everyone's favourite player, but he's certainly Ange's preferred left back. I think we all know that now. And he's the last 2 games. I'm sure we'll talk about Motherwell later, but the last 2 games he's been absolutely immense.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. Patrick, just before Magnet 67 jumps off, this is when you can probably answer for him. He's wanting to know a bit about XG. What direction would you point him in? I know you get some cracking books for Christmas on it just before he goes.
Well, if someone has an open net 2 yards out, the XG is probably really, really high, and you think to yourself, oh, he should have scored there. Whereas if you're taking a shot for the halfway line, you're probably thinking, oh, that's never gone in, so the XG is probably really low. So say a shot was in 50% of the time, the XG is 0.5. And that's probably the best way I can explain it.
There we go. Hopefully that helps. I think there's plenty of books and stuff online that you can probably read about it. But Patrick is our stato on that. I try and understand it a wee bit, but Patrick's the main man when it comes to this one here.
So is Alan Morrison.
And Alan's definitely the top man. If he's the oracle on it. Lawrence, obviously we spoke there about the fullbacks. It was another clean sheet for our 2 centre-halves, which there's been questions about. But then into the midfield, there was a lot of chat. We, spoke about Riley McGree, the Middlesbrough man, who we wouldn't have had at our disposal because he would have been playing alongside Tommy Rogic for Oz. But instead we opted for Matt O'Reilly, MK Dons, who has been an absolute standout, thrown in at the deep end at Tynecastle. He is most certainly an Ange Postecoglou signing. He comes from the same agency in which Frank Trimboli comes from, Ange's agent, so there's no doubt about that one. What has been your thoughts on Matt O'Reilly? Obviously rested at the weekend, but what a player he's been since he came in. And I'm really glad, I think, that we get him instead of Riley McGree, because we wouldn't have had him at our disposal. Yeah,
some of his passing, down the line, one of those balls, just moved the ball quickly down to Abada. He can see a pass, a defence split pass. Seems to be able to tackle. He's got great work rate. But, Ange's probably looked at his stats before he's come in and thought, you know what, this guy fits my system. And for the money we spent, 1.4, I don't know where Ange keeps finding these bargains. It's already one of the best midfielders in Scotland, on what we've seen from him. And it's now looking at the Celtic midfield. I think earlier in the season we're looking going, there's something not quite right with that midfield. But now you're going, we've got options, and they all seem to be doing really well when they come in. I don't know if maybe competition's driving it on. David Turnbull must be sitting in the house looking and going, how do I get into this team? Where's my position now? It's, you've got Gucci injured, he must be going, right, where am I going to play? I think Matt O'Reilly's just been absolutely phenomenal. Him and Rio. I think Rio, the new McStay. I think he's closer to McStay than Turnbull was.
Well, making bold assertions on here, but Patrick, it's midfielder after midfielder, and it's very, very hard to pick here because me and you're in a group chat, and Paul Matthew asked us what would be the 3 that you pick in there, and it's just a really difficult question just now because I couldn't tell you. I'd say Cal Mack and probably Rio Hatate, but then it's between the rest of probably Tommy Rogic for me, but on a different day. Ange's played Turnbull in all those games, O'Reilly's already put a foot wrong, etc., etc. It's great to have all these options, but O'Reilly, again, he's one of those players that I think last summer we thought of, there's nothing here that we're probably going to be able to sell on again, but Ange's building a squad. Not that we're wanting to punt our players, but you look at the age of Matt O'Reilly, for instance, he's only 21. Me and you met him last week, and he's a nice big guy. But at that, it just, he's going to develop even further under Ange and probably get a pretty price tag for him, especially due to the fact he's English. We saw guys like Harry Maguire go for absolutely mental money because of the whole rules in the Premier League. But again, what a find this guy is.
Absolutely unbelievable. And, there's a bit of confusion over we passed up on McGree or he passed up on us. I think he's probably just going to where the money is, really, isn't he? And unfortunately, Middlesbrough's able to outmuscle Celtic in that department these days. But O'Reilly decided to come to us, even though, there must have been English teams in for him. I couldn't name any just now. I didn't really follow it until he signed.
I think there might have been a gap in the buyout clause, which is actually something Brown Warriors saying about him having a buyout clause. I think somewhere I read that said that O'Reilly, sorry to interrupt you this one, Patrick, could have went for something like £8 million, but because there was a buyout clause in there, they were able to get him that bit cheaper.
Impressive stuff, that, isn't it?
Rumoured Liverpool were looking at him, or Liverpool stats guy was looking at him, saying like he had the best stats any midfielder in the UK.
Jeez, I mean, that is extremely impressive that we've managed to land a guy like that. And you can see when he plays, I mean, I think his first game at Tynecastle, it was, there was a chances created. I've probably spoken about this already. There was a chances created box towards the end of the game. He created about 8, and the next 3 created 2. So the creative play that he brings to the team is absolutely unbelievable. And especially at the game on Wednesday night, when we went top of the table, the ground they made up it was phenomenal. I mean, I've not seen any stats about it yet, but it was just running and running and running. And as you say, when you're picking that 3, unfortunately out of the 5, Turnbull's the only one that you sort of automatically say, well, he's probably not getting in there. And it's probably a choice between Rogic and O'Reilly. I think probably in bigger games you would choose O'Reilly because he can cover that distance. Whereas packed defences like Motherwell at the weekend, you're probably going for a Rogic and Hatate duel because a bit more creativity. Rogic can get you the goals. But unbelievable signing. Unbelievable signing.
No, absolutely, Patrick. Totally agree with you on that one. One of the things that we're talking about there with O'Reilly, don't worry, we're definitely not wanting to punt him. But it's just how the system's changed in terms of transfers because, at Celtic, we've heard so much rhetoric coming out of the club about, the sustainable plan that we've got in place of that player trading model. But last summer it looked as if we just completely blanked that. We had nothing there when Edward, checked out the club. But this system that Angie's got in, we can see that he can pick a player, he can be trusted. And as well as that, it looks like loads of these guys will probably go for a hell of a lot of money, which again helps us plan for the future. I think that's one of the important things about getting Ange down in a long-term contract, which I think a lot of people are starting to worry about because at this point in time, if it came calling, I don't think he would do that. He is there as an option. He's on that rolling contract like every Celtic manager. So, yeah, I think I'd like to see him personally get tied down on a long contract. But we'll see how that goes. Lawrence, when we were on last Tuesday, the news only broke at that point that Callum McGregor might possibly feature in the game against Rangers, and if he did, he would wear a mask. He came in there like a real superhero, quite literally, and just absolutely dominated the midfield. Again, was captain charisma, and as I keep describing him, he's like a metronome in there. Everything good about Celtic went through Callum McGregor again on Wednesday, and at third part again he led. And what a captain this guy is becoming for Celtic.
So you could see the Rangers players were scared to try and take him on. You see that clip of him, hounding Barisic. It's just phenomenal, and so humble as well. When he's saying, everyone out, the fans would have played with a broken face, and he's no different. What an example he's setting to everyone at the club, to the new guys that have come in. This is what it means to be Celtic, and I think he's just been amazing as captain. What a challenge to take over when you're losing so many players after such a bad season, and he's really done it with ease. It looks like, doesn't it? He's just a phenomenon.
Absolutely, Patrick. I don't know if you want to correspond over what he was shouting at Borna Barisic to his captain Cal, but
I think we'll have to pass on that.
I think what Lawrence has seen there is really a real good important point. That Celtic squad and a core of it was probably damaged mentally last season, like probably we were as fans, what we were watching. He's, oversaw the rebuild. He's obviously got a good relationship with the manager, Ange Postecoglou. I just thought he was absolutely outstanding last Wednesday, as he is, week in, week out for Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, Callum McGregor's a winner, so I don't think he was best pleased by himself and by just the overall performance of the club last season, like any of us were. We're extremely disappointed by how last season turned out, but he's one of the guys. I mean, you seen him at half-time saying to Joe Hart, just calm the celebrations a bit. We've not won anything yet, 14 games to go, 13 games to go now, obviously. He's an elite player, both mentally and physically, in his ability. and delighted that he's our captain, delighted he's signed up to stay at the club for so long. But he's playing well. He really is a bad game, Callum McGregor. He can play at any level. You seen that when Rogers was trying to take him to Leicester a few years ago. But delighted, absolutely delighted. Still, in my opinion, the best player in the country.
Yes, no, without a shadow of a doubt. I totally agree with you on that one. Lawrence Raymond comes in to say at the start, answered the guitar with 2 strings. Now he has 6. He's given us a bit of Sultan's a swing. Absolutely, and I think every one of those Celtic players are humming along with the tune because, Ange's conducting this orchestra and they are all absolutely belting the tunes out. One of those guys who did that last week, and I was thoroughly impressed with his performance, was Georgios Giakoumakis. There was questions about him going into the game. I thought he did a decent start to his Celtic career. I know he was a bit hot and cold, but we could see that he could get in front of players, he could create chances, got a good goal at Tynecastle, caused problems in the game. 2 really good chances that were prevented by 2 great saves by Alan McGregor. But Giakoumakis, I thought he was absolutely integral to last Wednesday evening, just the way he was absolutely rumbling up Connor Goldson and Calvin Bassey. And I actually thought we missed him a bit in the second half.
I think his work rate is something that he'd really improved on in that game. He showed a work rate he hadn't showed before. It was great work rate, and you can see him now. If he can get that level of work rate every game, you can see him fitting into Ange's system. Could do with a few more goals from him, but as you said, McGregor a couple of cracking saves. You could probably say the last 3 games he's been, keepers have pulled off some cracking saves. But yeah, for that 60 minutes, he didn't let that Rangers defence settle, did he? They looked so nervous up against him. And what is he, 6'1", Goldson 6'4"? It's so he's given away a bit of a height disadvantage there, and yeah, I thought he was phenomenal. And the work rate he put in over and above everything else, I thought, this guy's really, whether he's just getting his fitness, who knows, but he definitely put in a work rate that we hadn't seen before. And Rangers really, they just couldn't live with it, their defence.
No, they couldn't. They looked startled. I think Hamish, Patrick, you'll have saw this on Twitter, put up that wee clip. The ball goes back to Connor Goldson right away at the start of the game. He plays it to a Celtic player. It's a very minuscule example of just how rattled they looked. But in terms of the atmosphere was absolutely electric. And Wednesday evening, and the Rangers players did look as if they were taken aback by it. And Georgios Giakoumakis, certainly added to that. He really rumbled up the 2 Rangers defenders. The man out to his right hand side scored an absolutely terrific goal to make it 3. We're absolute dreamland then. Abada completely goes in. Borna Barisic is sitting down early before half time when the ball goes into the back of the net. Abada, again, Patrick, a player at only 20 years of age, just came in and had such a big impact under Ange Postecoglou. Scored again at the weekend. How impressed have you been with him, not just in the past couple of games, but overall so far this season?
Yeah, he had a fantastic start, didn't he? And then, as the team started playing better, he maybe sort of drifted in his performance October, November time. But I think I either said to you or said on Twitter that ever since that Ross County away game, he's arguably been, it's hard to say he's been our best player, but he's been one of our most important players. The goals he's chipped in with, the numbers he's contributing at the age of 20 is unbelievable. I think he's got something like 22 goals and assists, and it's early February. I know he's played a lot of football, but at 20 years of age, that's incredible, especially when we weren't getting the results in our first 8 or so games. It's scary to think of the position he could be in a few years, if he keeps putting in these sort of numbers and these sort of performances. The timing of his runs as well, and the finishes, they look like easy goals, but they happen so quickly that it's not an easy finish, it's not an easy goal to score. And it's funny, he scores the exact same goal twice, near enough. He's totally unmarked by the left back, he makes a late run, Hatate crosses it into him, boom, goal. It's incredible, and long may it continue. And I think just on Giakoumakis, as long as he's saving up his hat-trick for Livingston away on March the 7th, I'll be more than happy.
Yeah, we'd like to see, I think, a Celtic striker really rumble up the Livingston players and try and get that eventual result that we've been waiting, what will be 4 years, I think, nearly, at the Spaghetti-Ad.
We might have to go there twice this season. The way things are sitting.
That, Lawrence.
But the way things are sitting, look, we're going to have to go somewhere.
Aye.
You're totally right in that one, Lawrence. Again, something I think is important to talk about when it comes to Giakoumakis is in December when Kyogo was out the team. At times it looked as if we weren't struggling, but goals weren't coming as much as we would like from other areas of the park. Obviously, I'm thinking back to a game like Motherwell at Celtic Park, we win 1-0, the 0-0 game at St Mirren, etc., etc. The cup final, we bring Kyogo back in and he gets the 2 goals for us. Is it a good sign that now, obviously, I know Maeda's came back in, that everybody's chipping in with goals? You're getting goals from Hatate, Abada's always in the mix of goals. We've seen defenders chip in, obviously Ralston up at Ross County, etc. We are taking chances in games. I know probably people would say we're not taking enough chances in games because it could have been 5-0 at half time at Fir Park, it probably could have been 5-0 at half time at Celtic Park, but there's goals coming from all around the pitch, and you can just see this Ange Postecoglou team evolving every single week now.
Listen, it was some chip with Maeda, but I think it's Ange's philosophy, isn't it? Create a large number of chances, you'll get goals. And just the amount of chances, we're playing a lot more fluently. I think just now the new signings have undoubtedly helped that, and getting people back from injury. So the competition's there. The 5 subs has probably helped arguably as well. We can go hard on the first 45 minutes because we've got 5 changes we can make in the second half. Where the goal's going to come from, Abada's just phenomenal, isn't he?
Yes. It's Young Player of the Year for me so far, Lawrence. I think it probably will be.
Could be in the run for Player of the Year if he keeps this up.
Could be as well. No doubt about it.
It's Jota another wing. I mean, he's keeping Jamesy Forrest out just now, Abada. It's for a guy in his first season, new country, phenomenal. I suppose Ange's now got this. It takes a time to build a squad and get his messages across, and we're starting to kind of see the fruition in that. And I think Jared over and Boys Down Under, he wonders it's the second season you'll really see them as a team. Can you imagine if that turns out to be true, that we progress from? Because every game you're looking, the amount of chances we're getting, we're going, why are we not scoring 3 or 4? If we keep improving on that, it's going to be phenomenal.
No, absolutely. A speed message coming in, greetings from Sydney, Australia. I don't think you guys realise the huge fan base Celtic have now from Australia and Japan. It's mind-boggling. I thought it was always a kind of a big Celtic following. And I think obviously Paul McStay's out there, Willie Wallace and stuff. We've been out there in pre-season tour, but certainly Postecoglou Armenia is running wild here in Glasgow and across the country and across Europe. I think I'm not just talking for the 3 of us. I think everybody that's a Celtic supporter absolutely adores Ange Postecoglou and everything he's doing for the football club just now. From where we were last summer to where we are just now was absolutely incredible. And it is all down to the big man. He has, built it himself and continues to build an empire here, which is certainly one which I think the rest of the teams in Scotland will probably be a bit worried about coming. Lawrence, you have been a big fan of James McCarthy, and at times me and Patrick have probably gave you the odd look and James McCarthy, but again Wednesday night we'll go back to what Alan said. The language that he used to describe McCarthy was a special teams player to close out matches, and on some of his stats, he led the team with 13 successful challenges, interceptions, which is 3 more than the next highest. He was only unsuccessful with 1. He won back possession 7 times in the game, which as a team was high as well. McCarthy on Wednesday evening, when he came onto the park, I thought he managed the game terrifically well in midfield and was a really solid performer in there for us.
Showed his experience, he came on, he just closed the game for us, didn't he? When he needed it to turn his sting out, and we were never in danger of losing that. It was just, I suppose Alan said it's a special teams player. That's what you get from him. He knows his position and he's got the experience. He knows where to intercept, where to be, and yeah, he was just class, wasn't he? And what an option to have to come off the bench. I mean, the Celtic midfield now, from the beginning of the season, from an area that wasn't working, if you were to run through McCarthy, Beaton, McGregor, Rogic, Gucci, Rio, O'Reilly, just the options in midfield now is scary. Would you take any midfielder off any other team in Scotland?
No.
Just now? It's...
Patrick probably still
what unit?
Ferguson.
That ship has sailed.
What unit Ange has built, You know, and I think having 5 subs, we're going to see more and more of McCarthy, especially if we keep getting 3-0 up. You know, it's just 3-0 up, just close the game. 3-0 up, just close the game. Because 13 games left in the league. We've got the Cup. We've got the Conference League that you've promised us tickets for, Declan. Patrick and I, I've got that.
He's not get back to me yet. Still working on it.
25th of May, you know, it's in the stars, you know, but we've got over to Albania, led by the man that was top of Puskas, who was top of Gribben, you know, Jimmy Gribben XL. So it's all there to happen, mate. It's, you know, this could be an amazing season, you know, going from the lows of last season to a huge clear out and rebuilding job. We've already got the first trophy in the bag. We're sitting top of the league. We've got chances in the conference and the Scottish Cup as well, haven't we? You know, but we've got the squad now. I think, you know, you're looking at that squad and going, you know what, we've got depth in every position, so we should be able to handle anything that's thrown at us for the rest of the season.
No, absolutely, I totally agree with you, Lawrence. The squad depth's there. Hopefully, you know, Ange just said to be a bit cautious in this one because he's only got options back. We don't know what will happen further down the line. So as long as we don't play any other Barry Ferguson sides, I think we should be all right. Or anybody reads columns written by Chris Boyd. But Patrick, we're at a point here where we're top of the league. It was the first time in something like 73 weeks I'd calculated that we had been top of the league, which came after a 3-2 home victory against Livingston in September 2020. That is a mammoth time to not even be top of the league. I don't think we probably expected to be as far ahead as we are at this point at the beginning of February. I certainly didn't think when the Ange announcement would happen that, you know, we'd probably be into the Europa League the way in which we did, playing an Alkmaar team who were far ahead of us in terms of preparation and where they were as a club. League Cup in the bag after the shambolic disasters of last season in Cup competition, on top of the table. After, you know, very poor Glasgow Derby performances previous to that. What's your thoughts on it just now? Because I think we are so far ahead of schedule that it's just about take one game at a time and see where we end up at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think our expectations were so low that we didn't expect to win a derby game, we didn't expect to win a trophy, and we were going to be dumped out of Europe. But the way in which we've done it, I mean, that Alkmaar game, the more time passes, the more impressive that is, because we hadn't even got Carter Vickers or Jota in yet. You know, I think Ryan Christie played in that game, which, you know,
Montgomery also played.
For that 6 weeks, Christie was a great player for us, you know. Montgomery, as you said, Taylor got injured about 30 minutes into the away leg, didn't he?
Yep, We're under the cosh for a long period of that game as well.
Oh, aye. Conceding early goals as well. Typical Celtic in Europe. But no, I mean, it becomes more impressive when you look at the state of the squad, when you look at how early on it was. I mean, if we played Midtjylland now, it would be a cricket score. Just how far we've come in the last 6 or 7 months.
Poor Eric Sviatchenko.
But as you say, I mean, you know, we're only 1 point clear top of the table. So in early February, it's not beyond our wildest dreams to be top of the table in February. But as you're saying, where we were this time 12 or even just 9 months ago, May 2021, it looked as if we were years away from competing. But Ange's worked absolute miracles virtually on his own. And all credit to him.
And see when Ange says battle hardened, it's the amount of injuries we've had to face this season. It's almost unprecedented. You know, it's not just it's not been a smooth rebuild just because of the amount of injuries and players unavailable, and so what a job that the guy's done. You can see why he's won trophies everywhere he's been. You know, I know some journalists describe him, you know, not good enough, and you've got to wonder where they get this impression of a guy that's been a serial winner. He comes over here, he's taken over a fairly substantial rebuild. I think every Celtic fan realised that, and journalists that were calling him out, you know, at the end of August and saying, oh, he won't be in a job in December. It's just, I suppose it's a bit of arrogance on their part. He certainly proved them all wrong. It's just, I think he's given us football that we all want to go and watch. You know, that sometimes, although you want to see Celtic play all the time, there's sometimes managers there that put on football that wasn't entertaining, shall we say. Every time you watch Ange's team, you know, they're entertaining. They're attacking. It's the Celtic way, isn't it? It's an identity that we can all aspire to as Celtic fans. It's what we want to see from our football.
Yeah, absolutely, Lawrence. As well as that, you know, his philosophy is clear to see in the way we play football. I know at times it can be a bit heart and mouth when the ball's going to Hart, Starfelt, Vickers, etc. But I've actually became very calm with it because I just expect them to do their jobs. They're working on it constantly. We've got a clear identity, which I think is very important. As you say, Lawrence, you know, that old term of the Celtic way of playing football. We're doing that just now. And on that, to kind of closing, you know, the topic of Wednesday night, his comments after the game, and the way the guy has handled himself since walking into this job has been absolutely phenomenal. You know, the clip appeared last week of Alan Brazil sitting and he's giving it Posta who, and McCoist is giving it, oh, I'm loving this, etc. Don't think Alan McCoist is probably loving it just now. But the Ange comments were, I'm sure a lot of people walked in with some problems in their lives, and for this 95 minutes, we made them forget that and feel good, and that's something special. Patrick, in terms of the man of Ange Postecoglou, we can talk about the football, but he just seems to get Celtic Football Club. I did an interview last week with David Carswell, who did the Tommy Burns story, and he was telling me about Ange coming to the play and just, you know, the reception and reaction he got. And, you know, Tommy Burns, obviously a long-time servant at Celtic Football Club, you know, one of Celtic's greatest ever sons, a long connection. But Ange is coming across in a way that you just take the guy to your heart so much and can identify with by comments like that, and just the way he carries himself in his job. He has an example, I think, to any young footballer, coach, manager, or person, just in the way he carries himself.
100%. And, you know, I'm not old enough to remember the Martin O'Neill days, but I think there's a connection there that hasn't been there since O'Neill, if not before O'Neill. You know, we've had 2 Irish managers recently, and, you know, there's obviously a connection there. I think they both definitely support Celtic. One of them more than the other, but they didn't seem to get it, even though they are Celtic fans. There wasn't that connection there, not as strong as it is just now, I don't think. And, you know, we won trebles under both of them, played some fantastic football under both of them. But, I mean, Postecoglou, it's like a different level, totally. He totally gets the club. He's a fantastic football manager. As you say, he's conducted himself spectacularly. And the results are they're coming, and he's done it all himself. It's incredible. It's hard to actually comprehend just how hard it is to walk into a job on your own with no backroom team, something Eddie Howe was scared to do.
Halfway across the world.
But not a different planet, as he's keen to remind you.
He knows all about Hearts, mate.
And go from, I think we were something like 22 points behind at this time last year, never 1 point ahead, so a 23-point swing. Absolutely unbelievable, totally impressive, and get him a long-term deal, for goodness sake. I mean, he could leave any day in theory, and
long-term deal.
10-year deal, no, maybe not 10, but yes, a long-term deal would be ideal.
It makes absolute sense to take an Ange deal. From the highs of Wednesday to, I think, David McLaughlin, the tour guide at Celtic Park, put out that tweet, you know, it's the best first half performance I've seen in 4 days, or whatever it was. It really was. Lawrence, you know, Fir Park's always been a difficult venue for us to go to. I've seen us win games there, I've seen us be beat there. You know, the horror games, you know, Michael Haggerty and all that, beating us 2-1 and whatever else, but
Scott McDonald's,
and obviously the McDonald game. I didn't want to talk about Helicopter Sunday, but there's that game too. But it's one of the most comfortable I've ever seen is at Fir Park, and really at half time it was free going on 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to worry. You've just went top of the league, but you know your next game's always your most important, isn't it? And you just need to kind of cement your place there. And David McLaughlin, John Thompson 90 support driver as well. Him and Paul McQuaid, great guy, David. But
two good guys.
It's you know, Fir Park. You've seen us struggle there many times, and listen, it was a walk in the park, wasn't it? It really was. The result was never in doubt. Just the team were really on it. You know, what a performance. Tommy Rogic. And Giacomakis again, you know, building on a good performance against Rangers. Some strange refereeing decisions against them. You know, I think McGarry had 2 hands on him, stop him from running, and it was a foul against Giacomakis. You're sitting going, oh, come on, ref. But yeah, it just, again, another complete performance from Celtic. And it was important to get it. You know, it's important, you know, once you're at the top of the league to make sure you stay there, isn't it? To cement it and say, look, we can keep up this level of performance. Good to get Tommy back in the team and just looking as if we can go. I wouldn't be surprised to see us go unbeaten for the rest of the season in the league.
No, neither would I. I totally agree with you on that one. And certainly if you look at the form, apart from that game through at St Mirren, which I think was just a League Cup final hangover, we had COVID issues as well. There's no reason why we can't, as long as everybody's fit and we don't have any disasters. Just to cover in this comment, I've got an Aussie on, we stayed up to watch the live stream past midnight here. Thanks to everyone tuning in from Australia and wherever else you are in the globe, you're most welcome. And thank you for tuning in to listen to the three of us just talk about Celtic. That's all we're here for, a good old chat about Celtic. Patrick, again, Sunday, it wasn't the exact same 11 that beat Rangers on the Wednesday evening, but again, it just shows that Ange is so confident in rotating personnel. Tony Ralston came in at right back, looked absolutely fine. O'Reilly dropped out the team, Tommy Rogic. Again, I'm sure our Australian viewers know all about him. Was absolutely sensational on Sunday. Talk to us about Tom Rogic at Fir Park on Sunday. He likes a goal there. He likes a goal against Motherwell.
Certainly does. 2 outstanding goals. The first one probably the best goal of the game. You know, I was lucky enough to be at Rugby Park 6 years ago when he scored that beauty to keep us top of the table.
I was there too.
I don't think it was better than that particular goal, but it's certainly up there. He's a phenomenal player. You know, and even just the small touches he has, the way he protects the ball, you know, you think he's going to lose it, and then he just manages to wriggle out of situations. It's incredible. He had a great game, just like everyone else. And, you know, I know people in the comments want us to talk down our chances of the Europa Conference League, but the 135 of the 180 minutes we played in the last 2 games were absolutely unbelievable, and I would fancy our chances against any team the way that we are playing. And as you were saying about going unbeaten, we don't concede enough chances to concede more than 1 goal, and I would fancy us scoring more than a goal in every single game, so I can't see us losing. It's quite unlikely we drop points actually, but I don't want to jinx anything, you know. But you know, Rogic, fantastic player, and one of the other impressive factors about Ange is he's managed to get Rogic to play well for a full 90 minutes. You know, even under Rodgers, you know, he would play well, but he'd have to come off after 60 because he couldn't last a full game. And it just shows you the fitness levels. You know, we're all worried about injuries in September and October, but I think now that people are, you know, the players are up to speed with the style, we can last 90 minutes, we can keep going for 90 minutes, and we can play well, and that includes guys like Tom Rogic. So, fantastic, and all credit to Ange.
I think this is another really good point in here, is that I think it's referring to Tom Rogic and that he's played 90 minutes, he's played in a row in his international break. You know, journalists were asking Lawrence questions about rest and players having a break, and as Ange says, you know, at the end of the season, that's when we all have a rest and collapse and fall down, and that's it. You know, Tom Rogic came back from international duty. I think he was in the stand watching on behind Cy Ferry and Paul Slane at the game on Wednesday evening, who were just behind the King, Kenny Dalglish. It was good to see him at Celtic Park with his son Paul. Put a cracking video from the director's box at the game last Wednesday. You know,
Paul Dalglish, Chris Hay, what a reserve forward line that was, mate.
Aye, not bad. You know.
Oh, never going to Celtic Park to watch him. In the reserves used to play there.
A 70s repeat with Hay and Dalglish in the Celtic team, but just not quite good at those levels. But you know, Tom Rogic for us has been absolutely key this season. He looks as sharp as anything. The goal is magnificent. There's the one he goes down, he's bobbing down that right hand side, Patrick, and I think that's when it hits the post. was really unlucky not to bag a hat-trick. I don't think he's actually probably many times in his career he could have got a hat-trick, but another top performance. We've spoken about Abada. Another performance thing that you touched on there, Patrick, going to come over to you and Lawrence, is the chances that we concede, how many goals we concede. It was another clean sheet for Vickers and Starfelt at the weekend. There's been questions raised about these two guys, but once again at the weekend I thought the two of them were solid and played very, very well.
Yeah, listen, it's the best defence in Scotland. A lot of it's down to Joe Hart. If Joe Hart's 1-on-1 with somebody, you fancy Joe Hart to save it. Not that many teams get 1-on-1 with us, but it's got to give the defenders confidence to play the way Ange wants them to play. And I think a lot of the stick they get comes from the press, because we are the best defensive unit in Scotland, but constantly in the press you'll hear them attacking Starfelt or Taylor or someone, and it's kind of easy guys for them to pick on. But Starfelt had a wobble kind of just before the turn of the year, but that coincided with Taylor's injury and Scales coming in and having to play with a new guy on his left. He's a right-footed player playing the left-hand side. Sometimes he doesn't look comfortable. But tell you what, his stats speak for themselves, and our goals conceded speak for themselves. We've got a cracking defensive unit, and it allows the midfield and the forwards freedom to play such attacking football, because they know the guys behind them can do the job. And Chris Julian's got to be sitting there going, I can't see where he's going to get a chance, where he's going to get any minutes. That's it's 13 months out until I get fit, so it's 14 months now. Where is he going to get a chance? I just...
Sunday might be the type of game he might get a chance, but apart from that, I think it's just going to be a 1-0, because at this point in time, to me, Lawrence, you don't change a winning formula, and you're bang on there, mate. And that Starfelt and Vickers give a good platform for that midfield to go and do their thing, which allows those three terrific forward players to go and do their thing. Why change it? Absolutely.
Aye. And it's going to take a number of games to get Julian up to speed, and I don't see him coming in. And he's a right-hand sided centre half. Cameron Carter-Vickers, he just hasn't. He's just, he's just phenomenal, isn't he? He's just nothing flaps him. He just seems to take everything in his stride. He's just been a great, loan signing for us. Hopefully, Michael Nicholson can convert him to a permanent signing. But right now, Julian's into the last 17 months of his contract just now. He's not played for a long time. I just can't see him getting back in the team. He's on fairly high wages. He might be someone that we look to move on in the summer if we can. Especially if we can get Carter Vickers signed up permanent. The defence has been great. Both the fullbacks in Ralston and Taylor, who have come in for a lot of abuse, I think, and a lot of guys saying they're not Celtic class. Ange came out early in the season, defended them, and said, look, these guys are doing what I want them to do. He's given them new contracts. I think Ralston surpassed everybody's expectations, although I think it looks like Juranovic has got that position nailed down as number one.
But he can rotate.
Definitely.
Rotate. Yep.
Aye, you don't have a worry if Ralston's going to play, do you? And Taylor's performance against the Rangers, what was it, 37 million guy had to get hooked at half time because he couldn't get a kick of the ball. It's just... It says it all, doesn't it? I mean, if you go for another fullback to replace Greg Taylor, who's the better Scottish fullbacks for him, Tierney or Robertson? Well, we can't afford either of those two. You know what I mean? So, who are you going to bring in that's going to be better than him?
Yeah, I totally agree with this comment from John, but I know some people in the chat are getting some points and saying that Starfelt was not the answer, that he's... Bryn Warrior came in to say that his performance against Alloa was left wanting for the goal. But I totally agree with you, Lawrence. I think you probably agree in this one, Patrick. Don't fix something that isn't broken. The two of them are the best defensive partnership in Scotland just now. Don't change that. And I think he's coming on to a bit of a game. And both played very well in the derby last week and again at Fir Park on Sunday. Patrick, one of our very own ACSOM contributors, sent a tweet to Alan Burrows yesterday, asking the question, which I think was a fair question, about the empty seats in the home end at Fir Park. Obviously, we used to always get the big bit behind the goal. Ever since I've been going to Fir Park, we used to always get the wee bit in the main stand, which I was in when we won 4-3 and all that through there. But that's no longer the case. Alan Burrows got back and explained. Great to see again, though, I must say, chief executive of a Scottish, an SPFL club, get back to someone asking a general query on Twitter to just communicate with them. Spoke about Motherwell building this community basis in terms of season tickets, and the fact that, you know, decisions made in the past they thought had hindered their relationship with supporters. What is your take all on this? Because to me, I think if there was a clear communication between the Motherwell hierarchy and supporters in terms of, if we do this for a short-term cash injection and can invest it back into the playing squad or community projects, whether it's grassroots football or stuff, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it even has to be short-term, you know. Have Motherwell ever sold out? I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but, you know, have Motherwell ever sold out their stadium, those 3 stands? I'm not sure that they ever have.
Possibly Submarine Sunday.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Aye. No, but in terms of season tickets, you know, they've never sold out their stadium, have they, those 3 stands? You know, I said, I had a discussion on Twitter with somebody, I think 2 nights ago, basically saying, you know, I think they've got the 12th biggest budget, which puts them bottom of the Premiership. You know, they've got the smallest budget in the Premiership. They could do with the money, you know. There's no debate in that. And, you know, I was in a position, I'm not sure about yourself, Lawrence, but I was in a position where I wanted to go to the game and I couldn't, because they'd given us a limited number of tickets, and the criteria is, you know, unbelievable these days to get an away ticket. Now, if they gave us more tickets, people like me would have been able to go, and I'd have happily paid the 30 odd quid or whatever it is, 25 quid to go to the game. Now, Motherwell have lost out my £25 there for no reason other than, you know, I don't know whether you want to call it dogma or, you know, some sort of philosophy they're trying to build. I'm not saying I want to take a Motherwell fan's place. I'm saying I want to take the place of an empty seat, and there was plenty of them. And it wasn't just because we won 4-0. There was plenty of empty seats in the first 27 minutes when it was 0-0. And that's my view on it. I respect what they're trying to do, trying to get, you know, build a club from the money of season ticket holders, from people in the local community, try and build a community club. But at the same time, you know, Scottish football is struggling for a reason compared to other European leagues. You're foolish if you don't want to try and maximise your profits, your takings on a match day. I know that the average is something like 42% for percentage of revenue taken on match days. If it's going to be that high, then you might as well let as many fans as possible. And I mean, even just from a neutral perspective, why would you not want more fans in a football stadium? You know, because that's less pies sold, less drinks sold, less match tickets sold. I can't understand it personally. I think they should look to sell out the stadium. And I don't think that's controversial.
No, I thought that was a very good summary there by yourself, because I was one of the lucky ones to be in behind the goal, and I could see, you know, basically beside the opposite goal, just so many empty seats. It would make so much more sense for there to be dialogue between them, and we can see how good the dialogue can be from Alan Burrows on Twitter and responding to his supporters. Have the same dialogue with your fans and explain what you're going to do with that extra revenue, because it makes a lot more sense. And, you know, Patrick, you've picked at 2 things there which people would probably laugh at, like feed the bear, saying less pies, less drink, less programmes, but it's all revenue for football clubs. These are all things that they were denied during COVID. They probably took a whack to it. And Lawrence, you know, we heard the bit about, you know, record finances. That's because of a player coming through their youth system in terms of David Turnbull, who they were able to sell to ourselves, the irony in it, for £4 million. It's record sales just now because I've managed it. But, you know, if you're getting that extra revenue, say it's an extra £140,000 every time you play Celtic and Rangers, the money that could do in terms of grassroots football at Motherwell Football Club, to me, would be transformational. It would make much more sense to do that than try and cut your nose off to spite your face.
Listen, from a Celtic point of view, you know, I'd go sell your stadium, but I can totally see what he's saying. You know, if they've got record season book sales, something they're doing is working. You know, the revenue deficit that Scottish football faces is the TV deal so low. You know, I think per head of capita, our attendance at football outstrips, I think, any other European nation. So it's not attendances that are the problem in Scottish football, it's TV money. And some Motherwell fans go, well, why should we give up the advantage of being the home team? You know, because let's be honest, Celtic could easily take 2 or 3 of these stands without a problem. So you can see it from a Motherwell point of view, maybe some dialogue with the season book holder instead of moving you for this game, saying, well, look, when you're picking season books, can you fill this stand first and this area of this stand first? So as it gives them the option to then sell those tickets without having to move any season book holders. Because as record as the season book holder sales are, I don't think it's taken up half of the stadium in season book holders. So maybe some dialogue with their season book holders and say, look, if you move there, the club can now bring in extra money and you're not moving for Celtic or the visit of the Rangers. You've got your own seat for the entirety of the season, and it allows the club then to maximise money. And surely from a stewarding perspective, even from Piestall perspective, you know, if they fill the stand bit at a time, it's got to be easier for them to manage. So I think there's probably a middle ground to be taken, and maybe it's something Motherwell should look at and say, well, look, we did miss out on this extra money. I can see what they're saying. It keeps the fans sweet. Well, a little bit close and you have a word with the guys that are perhaps taking up that area of that stand and say, look, would you move your season book? Because it will allow us to get this extra revenue out of 4 visits of the 2 big Glasgow teams.
Well, you know, MB's come in here to say Motherwell owes nothing and can choose to do as they will. That's certainly what they're doing. But if you look at Livingston, for instance, they can't afford it, and they choose to give Celtic and Rangers free stands at their stadiums, as McDermott Park and other places, which they look to maximise the revenue from these games. You know, I totally understand what Motherwell's trying to do at this point in time. I think you made a really good point there, Lauren. It's a kind of centre ground needs to be had on this, because I do imagine at Kilmarnock, who before they were relegated to the Championship of Scotland went back to one stand, the Chadwick stand, and you'd look around Rugby Park and see so many empty stands. I imagine they'll be back to 2 stands whenever we play them again, if they do come back to the league, because they don't have the finances there to support that. It's all very well at this point in time, Motherwell saying, you know, we've got this, but as things go down the line, we're still recovering from COVID. They won't always have a David Turnbull to sell. Finances will change. To me, it makes more sense to try and maximise your revenue. That is modern football, unfortunate as it is, and, you know, that's a perspective I take on it. But again, you know, it's one of these ones. It's an interesting discussion to have, and it's good that Alan Burrows is engaging with football fans in general on Twitter too, and all the other good stuff that Motherwell's doing. I've been one of the real leaders in terms of suicide prevention and mental health. So well done to Motherwell for that. Just Lawrence, we touched earlier. You mentioned the names of Hay and Dalglish in that reserve team. We've probably got amiss to not mention the passing of Davy Catanack. Obviously, Paul John, our very own, did the book on the Quality Street Gang. If you haven't saw the clip on Twitter, Davy is up talking about going in to play for Celtic for the first time. Part of that group, you know, along with guys like Danny McGrain, George Conley, Jimmy Quinn Jr., etc., all going in there to be the next lines, as Jock's team probably seen them. But everyone's thoughts and prayers at a Celtic State of Mind with Davy Catanack's family, who sadly passed away at the age of 75. Patrick, to close, we're up to Pittodrie tomorrow. It was a tight game up there in October. We got that goal at the end, that Jota goal, assisted by Adam Montgomery, who obviously won't be able to play against us tomorrow evening, as we're his parent club. Different contrast, you know, going into this game compared to last October. We hadn't won in the road in the league last October by the time we'd beat Pittodrie. I think that might have been the game that things started to shift a bit. What's your expectations going into tonight? It's an Aberdeen side that come off the back of a 2-1 defeat at the Tony Macaroni.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, we're unbeaten on the road, certainly domestically, since that game. Who'd have imagined that, you know? But I think the expectation must be to win the game. I mean, the form that we're on, based on performances alone, you'd be disappointed not to win the game by, 2 goals or more. At the same time, Pittodrie is a tough place to go. We drew 2 games there last season. I think before that we won every game for about 5 seasons. But just got to keep your wits about you, take every game afresh. I'm sure Ange will drill that mentality into the players if he hasn't already. Just need to take it as an opportunity. I think I was using that term a few times in this podcast a couple of months ago. Just another opportunity to show the type of football you want to play, type of player that you are. We want to score a lot of goals. keep it tight at the back. And yeah, I mean, Aberdeen, I think they'll probably count themselves as unlucky. Results are a bit mixed for them this season. They probably expected to do a bit.
Just under Stephen Glass.
Right. They probably expected to do a bit better, but maybe they don't deserve to be doing better. I'm not too sure, but certainly Celtic should be winning the game. We seem to be getting better and better. The last two games have arguably been the best performances under Ange so far, and you want to just keep the momentum going. We're only 1 point clear. It's a must-win game. Just, you need to play well to give yourself the best chance of winning the game.
Yeah, 100%. And just to answer Paddy in the chat, he's asking, did Ange get me a birthday card? The post he's not been, so I need to let you know next week. I don't know yet. There's a mountain of cards. I don't even know if Patrick got me a birthday card yet, so
Mate,
I hope he did.
I'm just disappointed he wasn't at your party. I know there were some Celtic greats there, but I thought Ange might have turned up as well.
Well, I think the big man's a bit busy for my birthday party, but he was more than welcome if he did, but he turned up. Lawrence, what's your thoughts going at this one at Pittodrie? I think it'll be a tough old game. It always is. Aberdeen might be seeking a bit of revenge after a poor performance at the weekend. I think the away fans were singing "We're not very good," which really sums up where they are just now as a football club.
Aye.
What's your expectation? Because they fair gave Rangers a good game up there a few weeks back. Scott Brown, I would hope wouldn't be winding up our midfielders or wingers as much. But what's your thoughts going into this game?
I think you've touched on it. Brown will be back for them, so I think it's seeing how midfield performs against Scott Brown. He's still top level for Scotland, Scott Brown. For our league, so it'll be interesting to see how we perform against them. Full expect us to win it, but we don't have a God-given right to win it. We've got to turn up and we've got to play for 90 minutes. But the guys, they've shown us they can do that. The last two games have just been phenomenal. They just need to keep up that level of performance and commitment on the park, keep up the work rate, and I don't think Aberdeen can live with it if we do.
No, and I think that's an important point in Scott Brown, Patrick, that, Lawrence is saying about testing him against the midfield. I think he got hooked about 60 minutes the last time, and he was absolutely knackered just because of the pace that we play it. I think, no disrespect to Scott, he's a Celtic legend, he's an icon, but at the age he's at just now, it's about quickness, it's intensity, and try to stretch that Aberdeen team, and that we, I don't think any team can cope with us at full pelt, and I think if we get an early goal tomorrow night, Aberdeen could be in for quite a long evening. Yeah,
I mean, I get hooked in did you say the 60th minute, the last time they played us?
I think it was about 60th minute, yep. Up at Pittodrie, that is. It came off quite a late Celtic Park too.
Aye, well, the tempo that we're playing at just now will be a lot earlier than that, because we're going at a frightening pace, the way that we're moving the ball. Even just the running that we're doing, Rogic, Hatate, O'Reilly, McGregor, unbelievable. The legs on the guys in the midfield, the passing, the moving, the tempo, as John Collins would say. But I mean, yeah, you just need to expect to win the game, and not to bring it back to this again, but it's another team that half the stadium will be empty, but there'll be 800 Celtic fans stuck in a corner.
Yep.
Which again, it's not a good showcase for television either. I mean, you've seen Man City Fulham are giving away tickets for a tenner and stuff just because it looks good on the telly to have seats filled. Disappointing, but to bring it back to the football, fully expect us to win the game. I'd be very surprised if we can. I don't want to jinx this, but I'd be very surprised if we concede more than a single goal in a game for the rest of the season domestically. And so, if we score 2 goals, we should win the game. Very simplistic, I know, but yes, I think we should win.
Yeah, there's a great record of it. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I think in the majority of games that we've went 1 up in, we've not lost at all. So again, I think the importance of a quick start, getting an early goal is going to be incredibly important for us. Lawrence, to ask, what would be your start 11 tomorrow night up there?
Hart, Juranovic, Taylor, Carter, Vicker, Starfelt, McGregor. Then it starts to get difficult, doesn't it? For your other 2 midfield places. Probably Rio and Rogic. Abada on the right. I'd start Jota. And based on his last 2 games, I'd put Giakoumakis through the middle.
I totally agree with that team. That's the team I'd play. Patrick, any changes to that?
I would put O'Reilly in for Rogic. I think if you outrun them, I think you definitely win the game, because I think, it's all about physicality and running with these teams. That's how Aberdeen and, Hibs and Hearts and stuff, although they're not touching Celtic's level, they're up at the top end of the table every season because they give the absolute maximum work rate. And I think if you, we work harder than just about any team in Scotland at the minute, I think. So if you outwork them, you outrun them, we're better footballers. So over the 90 minutes, I think, with O'Reilly's legs, I think, and he's just as creative as Rogic as well, so you're not missing out on anything, I don't think. Not only that, I know Postecoglou said don't give him a rest, but I think he could probably do with maybe only 45 minutes if you bring him on at half-time or something. So O'Reilly instead of Rogic for me.
Yeah, Big Tam again. He likes a goal at Pittodrie too, so that's why I'd probably agree with Lawrence on that one. I don't think I'd like to drop him after 2 goals at the weekend, but I think again, O'Reilly's good enough to go in there, as you say, Patrick. You wouldn't miss it. It's like we were talking about earlier with Juranovic and Ralston. If one drops out, are you really that worried? Probably not. Thanks to everybody in the comments as per usual. Thanks to our listeners from Australia and Canada who have told us, and Belfast too. Everybody else tuning in today, thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who's wished me happy birthday. I've seen loads of comments come in earlier on in the show to say happy birthday, so thank you very much for that. To all who have been on the chat, thank you, gentlemen, thank you. And we'll be back tomorrow previewing the Bulletin will be on, and then there'll be our usual match day coverage. Thank you for tuning in to a Celtic State of Mind.